Welcome to the Homeschool Oklahoma podcast. Homeschool Oklahoma is the state organization for homeschooling in Oklahoma. We promote, protect, and encourage parent-led and family-funded Christian homeschooling in the state. Our goal is to help you build your family through homeschooling in the name of Jesus. The goal of this podcast is to help homeschoolers, especially Oklahoma homeschoolers, take full advantage of everything the state has to offer. My name is Jonathan Bartlett, and I'm one of the board members of Homeschool Oklahoma. If you want to know more about Homeschool Oklahoma or help to support us by becoming a member, head over to the homeschooloklahoma.org website and click the Join Now button. Today we have with us Vickie Wilsterman. Before her homeschooling career, she worked in graphic design and marketing and served as a missionary in Southeast Asia. During her homeschool career, she taught all grades and worked for 12 years as a CC director, and she currently serves as a support representative in South Tulsa. She's a mom to 5 and a wife to 1. She is here to talk about integrating extracurricular activities into your homeschool program. Vickie, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for inviting me, John.
So first, why don't you start off just telling us a little bit about you, your family, and your homeschooling journey?
Okay, well, it's been a long one. My oldest son just turned 30,
wow.
So we started homeschooling about 25 years ago. And the way that I started homeschooling was, believe it or not, before I had kids, I'm really going to date myself. I had heard a podcast with James Dobson, and they were talking about homeschooling. Excuse me. And I thought, you know what? I think I want to homeschool my own kids just because my experience in public school, I did well, but I always felt a little bit like I was just trying to survive the whole system. So I wanted something better for my kids, even before they were born. And then when my oldest child turned 5, we knew we were going to live overseas. So obviously it was very easy to say, okay, well, we'll just homeschool. And that was the way that we got started. And 30 years later, we're still at it. And my youngest now is 16 and going to graduate in a couple years through homeschool.
Wow, good. About to finish it off.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I know. What will I do?
Yeah. So, what sort of extracurricular activities did you get your children involved in?
I am a person who likes to be busy, and I like my kids to be busy. So we pretty much have done everything that you could think of: art, sports, dance, theater, honestly, anything that you could do, we would do it. Gotcha.
So sports as well?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So have you found, in the homeschooling community, is it hard to find the extracurricular activities, or are they everywhere, or what's been your experience?
I think 20 years ago they weren't, it was a group of moms. It was like, well, I don't really want to do art at my kitchen table. So how about we all get together somewhere and do art together and kind of be in that misery together, because nobody wants a mess. But I think now, it's plentiful. There's so many things to do.
Mm-hmm. So why do you like to be so involved in all these activities?
Well, I think it's good for the family and it's good for kids. You can overdo it for sure, and you can sort of lose margin in your life, and so I think you have to be careful about that. But I think if you want well-rounded, socially adept, physically fit kids, you do need to do these things with them. And you can't homeschool your kids in a vacuum at the kitchen table. You can't. You have to give them more than that.
So how have you managed to maintain margin while doing all these extracurricular activities? What's the how do you know when you're doing too much?
Well, I think when your laundry's piling up, or your kids are eating through the drive-through too often, you have to ask yourself, could I or should I back down a little bit? My policy when my kids were little was to always have 3 days at home. So if we were going to do extracurriculars, I'd try to pile those on 2 other days and take the kids all at the same time, even if they weren't doing the same activity.
Yeah. So you have some days that you're not doing anything, that
right.
You're just all
I'm in my house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you've got other days where you're running wild.
Right. So. Exactly. With our hair on fire is what I tell people.
So what sorts of what's your the most the things that your children take away from the extracurricular activities? What are the things that you really have seen them grow with?
I think some things is that they have to work hard. I think there's a good competition that comes from doing things like sports or even things like scouting. There's just that little element that you want to do as well as your peers, or you want to show what you can do. So it makes them accountable. It teaches them how to cooperate in groups outside of their family. It teaches them respect for adults. It helps them. Yeah, it just trains them, I think, in every area of their lives. Even if you do Bible Bowl, and then you have another kind of training where you have spiritual training going on along with all of the other things. So yeah.
So how do you manage like your own involvement? How much of this is like you sending them out, and how much of this is you managing the extracurricular?
Well, I think when they're young, I managed a lot. I was not willing to just give my kids to people that I didn't know and trust. So a lot of times I would run those groups or run the groups in partnerships with other close friends of mine. We would get together and do that. We did American Heritage Girls. I was the leader of that group for a number of years. Because I really wanted to, if I'm looking for an experience for my child, then I want to give it to them within the group if there's not someone else that's ready to step up or capable at that point. I like to be busy. I like to do things. I'm not afraid of being involved. And I guess that could be just a little controlling things. Like I want to control the outcome. So therefore I want to a little bit control the income when they were younger. As they got older, then it was easier to find people. And I've always told my kids, I'm not going to put you under the authority of someone I don't trust.
Right.
So that was a big thing for me. If they were going to go away and play sports and they were going to be away from me for a while, I wanted to make sure those coaches and the people in their life were people that I trusted. Gotcha.
Yeah. So what sort of sports have your kids participated in?
They all started with soccer because it's just they get to run, and it's great for coordination, and it's a good team sport to play. And especially when they're little, everybody's having fun, and nobody, the parents are a little more relaxed, not a lot more relaxed, but a little bit more relaxed. So they all played soccer. And then my girls, when they got to be a certain age, I wasn't really about them playing competitive soccer because the girls get kind of rough at that. So they were also dancing at the same time, taking classical ballet and all the other things. And so two of them, my two oldest, went into dance and theater. My middle son is all sports. If it had a ball, he must play. So he played soccer, baseball, football, and basketball.
Oh, wow.
Yes, football and basketball all through high school. So
that's a schedule.
Yeah. And my oldest and my youngest are more academically bent, so they just did their stint in soccer and then they went on to other things. But I made them play. I thought it was important for them, even though it wasn't going to be their strength, that they should do it anyway.
Right. So now, if you met for moms that are trying to get started and they've got kids who may not have like a direction, how would you go about how would you suggest to someone? You don't want them to be playing on the computer all day. Yeah. You don't want them just sitting in their room. What's a good, you mentioned soccer for early sports. What are some other good intro extracurricular activities, and how do you help your child find what they really love?
Well, I think that's an adventure in itself. I think that as a parent, these are young human beings, right? And they will be adults. So that thing is true. We're raising adults, not children. So you have to think about the end when you're starting. So I think there are great organizations like, what is it called? Onward, that's a great organization to start basketball or start soccer because...
I think that's Upward.
Oh, Upward. That's the one. Not Onward, Upward.
Yes.
Yeah, Upward. Because they take the game very slowly. They're really good. It's introductory. There's no pressure. And we started our kids with that. And our one son, who ended up playing all those sports, he did not want to play basketball. But he's a very busy boy. And he was too busy for me. So I was like, he needs something else to do with his body. So you're going to play basketball. And he started with Upward, and he fell in love with the game. And he started at about 9 years old, and he played all the way through high school. And he could have gone on and played in college if he had made that choice, but he chose another route. So that's the kind of thing, and you have to your kids, my kids, I wanted them to all have a level of physical fitness, because there is a lot in their culture of just sitting at the computer, sitting, looking at their phone, and it will change their bodies. And so I always had this in the back of my mind that whether my kids are bent for sports or not, we will find a sport for them to play that they can at least tolerate. They don't have to love it, and it's only going to be for a period of time. So my youngest child started with soccer. She did not like to be sweaty. She did not like it when her heart beat really fast. And so she ended up doing swimming, because she loved to swim and she could swim. And it's less, you can compete against yourself in swimming unless you want to go on to the next level. Like improving your own score in swimming is a good boost for a kid who's maybe, if you do a swim meet, always going to be last or second to the last. And so there is a way to make it more benign and less hurtful, like I'm the slowest kid on the team. But my husband and I both just felt that physical fitness was always going to be part of their homeschool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important to really have. As homeschoolers, we can educate the entirety of the person,
right?
And I think that means a lot. So what about other types, like non-sport activities? How do you get someone to find their passion? What's the trick there? Because there's so many things that you could do. There
are. And so kind of what we started out in our home was I had like little areas in the house. So we always had instruments out, because you don't know what your kids are going to love, right? So we always had instruments just laying around, a little violin or a ukulele. We've always had a piano. We always made music readily available, CDs, and same thing with books. We always had lots of books around in another area with comfy pillows and places, and we read a lot and did a lot of books on audio before they could read. Art supplies, same thing. Always had those out somewhere. Gotcha. So they knew that once they were done with their academics, I can go. And there's been times, seasons, everything can be in seasons, but there's been seasons in the summer where all of the coloring books and everything are on the table, and even the adults will sit around and color and just talk and chat. And so over time doing that, then you can begin to identify, and they start to see the things they love. And so that was kind of the way that we kind of primed the pump when they were younger.
So you just made things that were readily available that they could just pick up, and if it was an instrument that made a sound that they liked, then they could move forward with it. And if it was a hobby that they, it was laying around somewhere and they could pick it up.
That's exactly right.
That's an interesting approach.
We had rock tumblers in the garage and soldering guns and buckets of nails and things. We just kept that stuff around for the kids.
What surprised you the most?
I guess what surprises me the most, my middle daughter just is she has a beautiful, she could be an opera singer. And that surprises me, because my kids all sing well, but she has discovered this talent and this real love for singing that is hers alone, really, in our family. So, yeah. That's
cool. Now, speaking of singing, you also do a lot of musicals.
We do.
So tell us a little bit about that.
About 10 years ago, I got wrangled into helping with this little musical theater company through Classical Conversations. And previously, I had worked with a private school in town, just doing some hair and makeup, because I was a dance mom. So that was in my wheelhouse, and they had reached out to me and asked me to help. And so I'd been around a few years of musicals and theater with this school. And the director of our homeschool program was moving, and so she asked me if I would take it over, and I said, no way, Jose, will I do that, because it's so much work, because I think they had 100 kids in their cast that year. And so I said no. And then I was with my two daughters, and we went to a little junior show at one of the schools in town, and they put on Peter Pan. And I literally just fell in love with the story, and I thought, we could probably do this in our little homeschool theater program. And so the three of us got together. My oldest daughter is gifted in choreography and dance, and my younger daughter is gifted in acting. And so we said, how hard could it be? So we did it, and that was almost 10 years ago. And so we put on a lot of shows since then, and we're just doing summer camp, even theater camp right now as we speak this week. So that's kind of how it happened.
I've noticed that there's a lot of homeschool theater that happens, and so what is it that attracts homeschoolers to theater?
I think part of it's cultural because everybody wants to be a singer.
Mm-hmm.
And kids are so exposed to different kinds of shows about singing, and YouTube is full of singers. So, Justin Bieber, he got discovered on YouTube, right? He was just a little kid. And so I think a lot of them want to be famous. And so this is a way that they can practice singing. And of course, next to singing, what is the next big thing if you want to be discovered? I guess to be an actor, right? And so many kids just want to do it. And their family, and the theater, I mean, you can learn so much doing the theater. So in our program, we are not about making stars. We tell the parents there, if you're looking for someone that's going to get your kid to Broadway, we are not those people. We want kids who are ready and confident and are able to basically give a testimony of the hope that's on the inside of them when it's time, when they're called upon in their life to give an answer about something. They can do it with confidence, and that they can deal with disappointment. In the theater, it's a big disappointment when you think you're going to be the star and you didn't even get a main role. That's a big disappointment. And so there's a lot of lessons. And I don't know, I think parents let their kids drive a little, because I have kids in my program, their parents could give a lick about theater, and it's painful for them to even come and watch their own kids in the show. But the kids want it, and it's a great growing experience, so they let them do it.
I'm very impressed with the level of I guess it's the tech crews that the homeschool theater groups do. It's not just the acting, and there's actually just a huge a skill level that's being taught and transmitted in the theaters. And I've noticed in CC theater and in courtyard theater, it's just really amazing the kinds of stuff that they can do. Yeah,
it's hard work. And the tech side of it, anything, you have front of the house, which is all the sound and the lights. That is quite, that takes a lot to make happen. I don't know if people realize that's hours and hours and hours of work that those kids put in, and then to run it for the show. And what I love about it is they do learn a level of professionalism as students that will take them into their adult life. And then back of the house, of course, all the stage crew, everything that they have to do, the organization that it takes to know, okay, this is the cue, we have to get these things on. And sometimes those changes are happening in seconds.
Right.
And they can manage it by themselves, and they're teenagers. So we very rarely have an adult in our backstage. And, but it is amazing when you want to.
Yeah,
you can do a lot.
And it's also really great because for the students that don't want to be in front of people, it gives them a way to plug into those communities, because those are great communities,
right?
And it's just been there's roles for just about everybody in theater.
There is. And sometimes you have kids who really think, I never want to be on the stage. We have a girl, she just graduated high school, but for about 4 years ago, I asked her, she's an artist. I'm like, would you paint some sets for us? And so she would come and she would just hang out. She's with us, while we're rehearsing and while we're singing. And it took her 2 years, but she said, okay, if I can just be in the chorus, I'd like to be in the show.
Oh, wow.
And so then her junior year, we did Mary Poppins, and she actually was Mrs. Banks. And then last year, she was one of our silly girls in Beauty and the Beast. But that literally transformed her life, because she thought, I'm never going to be out there. But once she took that step and she was brave enough, then it just opened a whole new world for her. And so now she's becoming a theater major. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now you've got lots of kids. You got 5 kids.
5 of them, yeah.
And they're all doing busy stuff. Now, you said that you try to keep 3 open days, but how do you actually do that with 5 kids doing their own different things?
When they're little, it's not so hard.
Okay.
As they get older, of course, I had to have their dad, and when you get into senior competitive sports, which we did with our middle son, it can sometimes be a juggle to get everybody, where you have some driver kid who's picking up another kid while you're taking one and the dad is taking one.
Yep.
So if it's a season, like we love to camp. And so we gave up a lot of camping when our son was playing competitive sports. And so when he graduated high school, we kind of all did like a collective high five. We can go back to camping now. But for us, I think those sacrifices were worth it. And you kind of grow into what you need to grow into. If you tried to do that level when your kids were little, you would just burn out. It would be horrible. But I think like everything else, you sort of grow into it and you learn to manage, and your kids then help each other. And our kids are not all stacked one on top of each other. There's like 3 years between them each. So that's a span of 15 years. So one drove, that one could pick up or drive someone somewhere. So
gotcha. How do you all have, like, one thing that I know some people are concerned with is making sure that there's a time when the whole family can be together. But if everybody's doing all this extracurricular stuff, how do you keep the family cohesive while that's happening?
We kind of had a policy where we would take each one of our kids once a month for just a dinner with us. We did that for a while. And then as the kids got older, we just did Sundays was a off limits family Sunday. Gotcha. And our kids are 30, 26, 23, 20, and 16, and they still come on Sunday for family Sunday. We eat a meal together. A lot of times we go to church together. And so that has stuck all along. But that's been sort of the primary thing as the kids became teenagers and got older and were busy going here and there.
That's really cool. Yeah. Getting, especially that they keep on doing that. That's actually pretty amazing. What kind of choices do you have as far as theater companies in Tulsa, or do you know anything about Oklahoma City as well? I don't know the names of them. I know there's a couple of programs in Oklahoma City. I know they're trying to, people call me occasionally and said, so you guys want to, and we're like, we could do a summer camp, but I don't think we want to do a program down there. And then here, of course, Courtyard is here. We are here. We are Cantabo Children's Musical Theater. And that means I will sing in Latin. So there you go for your classical people out there. And then, of course, Tulsa City has a program. What is it? There's another one in town. But if you're looking for true, good, and beautiful, wholesome materials, G-rated, then I know Courtyard and our group, that's our main focus. We want to keep it healthy for the kids. Yeah. That's awesome. Any other thoughts that you have on extracurricular activities that you want to share with our listeners?
I think you should do them. You have to get out and be with people and do extracurriculars. And I think when your kids are young, you give them all you can while they're trying to find out what are the things that they love, but the best that you can.
Yeah. Any special advice for introverts?
Love the introverts. I have a couple of those in my family. Don't push too hard. I think with introverted kids, you can push a little bit more when they're younger. But when you really start to see they are truly introverted, I think that's a lot of conversations that you have with them. And there's sports like golf and tennis and some swimming that those kids can do and be very content in their introverted ways and manage those things quite easily. And chess club, there's chess clubs and things like that. So there are lots of things even for the introverts.
Gotcha. Well, Vickie, thank you so much for joining us.
You are welcome.
And you have a great day, and I hope our listeners have a great one as well.
Thanks, John.